Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Unexplained Reality with Harrison Quinn and Brian Quinn. A dramatic reading.
The two and only.
Thank goodness. There's not room for more. So, we apologize about last week. Apparently, the full-time job that pays the bills got in the way, and had to be out of town, and it was not very easy to try to coordinate a show remotely. So anyways, we apologize for that. We're glad we're back and that you're with us, and hopefully you will enjoy our episode number 5.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to believe it's been 5 episodes.
Yeah,
so.
for real.
As usual, we would enjoy to hear some feedback. You can reach us at unexplained.reality@yahoo.com. Hit us up on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, all that good jazz. And of course, unexplained.reality@yahoo.com. We ask you that you would rate us or leave us feedback. Subscribe to us so you're with your favorite podcatcher. That all that helps, our show, and so help us build it and help us be able to do better, bigger, and better things. Hopefully, we do have some interesting stuff coming up. Trying to work on it, trying to get some people lined up. So maybe we'll have some guests finally, and share some personal stories for some people, and that should be interesting. So bear with us. We'll have that. It's not going to be next episode, but maybe in the next few episodes we'll be able to get around to that. So anyways, how's your week, buddy, so far?
Pretty neat. Had my math final. Everybody's, if you're a student out there, you know how it feels going through finals at the end of the year. It's pretty stressful, so we'll get through it.
Yep, winding down, get the summer rolling, some time off. That'd be awesome for you. Yeah. For me, I still have to go to work. You got any? What's that?
I said, but it's hotter.
Oh yeah, it's hot. It was warm today. If you don't know, we're in South Carolina, right dead smack in the middle of it, and it's starting to live up to its name here. It's getting very warm.
It's 80 degrees right now.
80 degrees, and we're at 10 o'clock at night. We're recording this. Awesome. So anyways, you got any news for us, buddy?
Staying out of politics, no, but...
Yeah, I'm so fed up with all that.
There's a Shark Tank of politics right now. I'm not really going to touch on that, but, a lot's going on in that.
Everybody's got their own opinions about that. I've got opinions about it, but it's... Regardless of who you are, you can pretty much agree that politics right now in this country is... it's historical. I mean, it's in a state that we've probably never seen before. And it's something. So, yeah. You got any news? I got some news articles, but if you have anything you want to go ahead.
I don't think I have anything. I'm gonna have to start looking into stuff. I'm not too used to get all my news from CNN because we'd watch it
that's the problem right there.
Yeah, but we'd watch it every Wednesday in geography, just to watch and see what was going on in the world. But haven't been watching it because finals, our classes have been moved around. So, no, I don't think I have any news.
All right. Well, I got a couple things. First, I heard some news this morning. I didn't realize that on Sunday, Powers Booth passed away, who was Curly Bill in Tombstone. He was also Lamar in Nashville, which me and Mom got watching. So that was pretty sad. I liked him. He was a good actor. He usually didn't play a very nice person but he was very good at his trade. The first news article I got, I've heard a lot of stuff about this, and I'm sure you guys probably have too, but it was about humans in California 130,000 years ago, which kind of, changes yet again, it rewrites the history books. But this comes from actually nationalgeographic.com. And it says, in an announcement sure to spark firestorm of controversy, researchers say they found signs of ancient humans in California between 120,000 and 140,000 years ago, more than 100,000 years before humans were thought to exist anywhere in the Americas. If the researchers are right, the so-called Cerruti Mastodon site could force a rewrite of the story of humankind. I realize, the guy says, I realize that 130,000 years is a really old date and makes our site the oldest archaeological site in the Americas, says study leader Tom Demore, the paleontologist. He says the paleontologist at San Diego Natural History Museum, whose team describes their analysis today in Nature. And quote, of course, extraordinary claims like this require extraordinary evidence, and we feel like the Cerruti Mastodon site presents this evidence. So basically, they found a mastodon, and as they were excavating it, they found human bones. And I think apparently, from what I understand, it says, to be clear, the team has not found human bones at the site. Sorry about that. But as Demure and their colleagues tell it, their evidence, a mastodon skeleton, bone flakes, and several large stones, shows that the area was a bone quarry where an unknown hominin allegedly smashed flesh mastodon bones with stone hammers, perhaps to extract marrow or to mine the skeleton for raw materials. See, I didn't realize that. I thought it said that they had found human bones. That's pretty interesting. So anyways, that was on National Geographic, and I'm sure you guys have probably heard about that. It's been in the news quite a bit lately. Another story I got here is kind of a sad story. I just heard about it a little while ago and did some research on it and found a article on the Daily Mail UK, and it says apparently a plane went down just recently, I guess Monday or Tuesday, went down over the Bermuda Triangle. But apparently it says the U.S. Coast Guard has located a debris field near the Bahamas where a private plane carrying 4 people, including 2 children and a CEO from New York, went missing in the Bermuda Triangle. Pilot Nathan Ulrich, 52, of New Hampshire, and Jennifer Blumen, 40, of New York, who is the founder and CEO of event venue development firm Skylight Group, were identified as 2 of the people on board. Blumen's sons, Phineas, 4, and 2-year-old Theodore, were also on the plane, authorities confirmed. The Coast Guard tweeted at 3:30 p.m. on Tuesday that a helicopter crew located debris field approximately 15 miles east of Eleuthera, Bahamas. Crews are searching for survivors. That's pretty sad. I peeked up on that because it said a Bermuda Triangle, but that's a very sad story coming out of there. Not your typical, if they found a debris field, not your typical Bermuda Triangle story, which usually involves, disappearances of planes and boats, but still interesting and sad. This one is from cryptozoologynews.com, and I haven't read this one yet, but basically it says the headline is State Trooper Claims Bigfoot is Real. I speak with them. Probably a good chance he might lose his job for that one. It says a former Michigan State Trooper says he regularly sees and feeds Bigfoot like creatures in the Cascade Range of Washington State. The 64-year-old man, who provided a full name and state trooper badge number but asked to remain anonymous, told Cryptozoology News on Tuesday that he has been seeing the creature since 2010. It usually happens at night, 3 a.m., but sometimes during the day. He claims the sightings, he adds, frequently last hours as the creatures follow him. They follow me now when in their follow me now when in their area after I have left them food. They always follow uphill in my blind spot like a soldier does. Sometimes they just stand away from me and look at me, the former law enforcement officer says. He speaks to them in a language similar to Native American Salish. This last time, there were 3 other people with me. Supposedly I heard hoops, and anyways, it sounds, I don't know. Sounds a little, might be a little crazy, but might be something to it, you never know. So, anyways, I think that's all I have for the news. You got anything, buddy, to add? So, you want to start us off on our episode, or you want me to start it off, or what you want to do here?
I don't care. You can go and start.
Okay. Well, our episode tonight, we're going to talk about prehistoric animal sightings. Something we both have an interest in. Harrison has always, since he was a little guy, has always loved dinosaurs and prehistoric animals, and I can't say that I have a fascination with them, but not probably as much as he does. What fascinates me more are these claims that people are seeing dinosaurs and woolly mammoths and, pterodactyls, pterosaurs in modern day. They got. I've heard sightings of Australia. People say they see. I believe I've heard that people have claimed to see T-Rex in certain parts of the outback. I've heard of seeing like what they described almost like as velociraptors also. So yeah, stuff like that's interesting. I mean, there's been claims of like off the coast of California, I've heard claims of people claiming to see pterodactyl type birds, hairless, almost, with the slick skin and no feathers. There's woolly mammoth sightings supposedly in Siberia, Alaska. There have been stories about that. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about some different sightings and thoughts and just kind of mull that over. And hopefully you'll like it. I guess I'll start mine off if you want me to, buddy. And I'm going to start with the woolly mammoth. This is a subject that has intrigued me. I guess the one that really piqued my interest is years ago I saw this video, and you might have seen it too, and it was supposedly filmed in Siberia, of this woolly mammoth crossing a river, and these people were videoing. From what it appeared, they weren't videoing the animal. They were videoing something else, and you could see it in the background crossing this river. It's very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very convincing. So I saw it, and when we came up with this episode, I started doing some research. I pulled that up and kind of looked at it a couple times, and I've never really looked at it really serious, but as I was looking at it, I realized, and it was like, wow, this looks really cool. But the more I looked at it and studied it and replayed it, I realized, I was like, he's not really breaking water. You can see him walking across, and he's in the water, but you would see water. That's a big animal. Mm-hmm. You would see water sloshing up with his feet and stuff. I mean, even though there's a river, granted, the water's moving. It's moving at a pretty good click. So that got me doing some more research, and I realized that was actually a hoax. I didn't realize it. So I saw this years ago on another show, and it was very convincing when I saw it on TV. But apparently this video was shot by a man who, was just shooting video, and then after he had uploaded it to YouTube or something, the movie, sometime later, he came across the video again, and somebody had apparently put a woolly mammoth in it crossing the river, animated, so I guess it's CGI or something. But It was pretty convincing. So if you've seen that, I hate to bust it to you, but that's not true. Not a real video. So I was a little let down by that. But anyways, I'm gonna my first sighting here was a guy named Colonel F. Fowler. And the sighting took place in Alaska. The year was, well, let me just read the article here. It says 2 years ago. Well, step back. He was in Alaska from 1877 to 1889, and he was there. While he was there, or after he was there, he was interviewed by a reporter, and the reporter had asked him, what was the most interesting thing he had seen in while he was in Alaska, and he tells a story about 2 years ago, last summer. He says, I left Kodiak for a trip to the headwaters of Snake River, where our traveling agents had established a trading station at an Inuit village. The chief of this family Inuit was named Toli Tima, and to him I was well recommended. He received me hospitably, and I at once began negotiations of the purchase of a big lot of fossil ivory, which his tribe had stored near the village. The lot weighed several thousand pounds and was composed of the principal and inferior tusk of the mammoth, the remains of thousands of which gigantic animals are to be found in the beds of interior Alaskan watercourses. I subjected the ivory to a rigid inspection. Upon two of the largest tusks, I discovered fresh blood traces and the remnants of partly decomposed flesh. I questioned Toli Tama, and he assured me that less than 3 months before, a party of his young men had encountered a drove of monsters about 50 miles above where he was then encamped, and had succeeded in killing two, an old bull and a cow. At my request, he sent the leader of the hunting party, a young man, very intelligent Indian, and I questioned him closely about his adventure among a race of animals that the scientific people claim are extinct. He told a very straightforward story, and I have no reason to doubt its truth. So he goes on and he says, he and his band were searching along a dry watercourse for ivory and had found a considerable quantity. One of the party, who was in advance, rushed in upon the main body one morning with the startling intelligence that at a spring of water about a mile above where they then were, he had discovered the sign of several of the big teeth. They had come to the spring to drink from a lofty plateau further inland, and they had evidently fed in the vicinity of the water for some time. The chief immediately called about him his warriors, and the party, under the leadership of the scout, approached the stream. They had nearly reached it when their ears were suddenly saluted by a chorus of loud, shrill, trumpet-like calls, and an enormous creature came crashing toward them through the thicket, the ground fairly trembling beneath its ponderous footfalls. With wild cries of terror and dismay, the Indians fled, all but the chief and the scout who had first discovered the trail of the monsters. They were armed with large caliber muskets and stood their ground, opening fire on the mammoth. A bullet must have penetrated the creature's brain, for it staggered forward and fell dead, and subsequently, on their way back to their camp ground, they overhauled and killed a cow, Big Teeth, which was evidently the mate of the first one killed. I asked the hunters to describe the monster, and taking a sharp stick, he drew me a picture of the pale animal in the soft clay. According to his descriptions, it was at least 20 feet in height and 30 feet in length. In general shape, it was not unlike an elephant, but its ears were smaller, its eyes bigger, and its trunk longer and more slender. Its tusks were yellowish, white in color, and 6 in number, which I thought was weird. I didn't know. I guess you don't see a mammoth, so you can't see them now, supposedly, but if they're extinct, but I never knew. You see pictures, you don't know they got 6 tusks. I thought they only had 2.
I don't think mammoths have 6 tusks.
I don't know. That's what it kind of confused me. when I was reading this. It says it had its tusks were yellow, white in color, and 6 in number. Maybe they're just talking about teeth.
I don't know.
Maybe they're just, I don't know. 4 of these tusks were placed like those of a boar, one on either side of each jaw. They were about 4 feet long and came to a sharp point. The other 2 tusks he brought away. I measured them, and they were over 15 feet in length and weighed upwards of 250 pounds each. They gradually tapered to a sharp point and curved inward. The monster's body was covered with long, coarse hair of a reddish dun color. I don't know what that means, reddish dun color.
I don't know about that. He said the tusks were 15 feet long and 250 pounds each.
Yeah, I mean, that's a substantial animal. But, I mean, if it's 20 feet at the shoulders and 30 feet long, that's a big animal.
Well, 30 feet long and 15 feet tusks, that means the tusks are half the animal.
Yeah, but, they're curved. I mean, they're curving up. So, I mean, that curvature is going to take away from it. But, yeah, that seems very big. But here's the funny thing. I read this story, and I was like, wow, that's, it's cool and all that stuff. But apparently this story was made up. I read this and I was like very intrigued by it, and I found all this stuff about it. But then I read on it and said that this guy Colonel Fowler had made all this up, and so that was kind of a letdown there, that you had this all played up, and then you get worked up about it and find out that this probably wasn't true. So then there was another story about this guy named where was he at? Let's see. I got this story up here. Give me 1 minute to find this one. This guy's name is Henry Tuchman. So in 1890, once again, this is in Alaska, which, Alaska in the present, I mean, as it stands today, present day, it's expansive, it's untamed wilderness. From the cities that you go to in Alaska, it doesn't take any time to get out of those cities and be in nothing, in the middle of nowhere, right? And so, I mean, if you go back to 1890 when this takes place, that's, you can only imagine what Alaska's like back then, So, you're talking about a wild, wild place, very untamed, more so than it is even now. So, this wilderness that Henry Tuchman was living in, if you take that and you put him now, he's in the middle of winter. He's at Fort Yukon, which is a remote outpost that was founded by a member of the Hudson Bay Company. It's located above the Arctic Circle. So Tuchman was sharing some memories of his time hunting in Africa to an Inuit man named Joe. Tuchman was sharing some pictures of some of the animals when he came to the picture of an elephant. Joe became very excited and stated that he had seen one of those there in Alaska. Joe and his son were out hunting when they encountered what turned out to be a woolly mammoth bathing in a lake. So Joe's son shot the mammoth, but it didn't take down the creature. It was too big. So Joe and his son got out of there because they were worried the mammoth was going to go crazy since they shot at it. And so anyways, rightfully so, they got out of there. So Tuchman was amazed by the story that Joe was telling him. So, and he was amazed, because the woolly mammoth supposedly didn't exist. It was extinct, And so he asked Joe, about heading out to the area where they had encountered the mammoth. However, it was winter. And winters being that harsh above the Arctic Circle, especially in 1890, back before you had global warming and stuff like that going on, supposedly. So it had been foolish for them to try to set out to do this. So what Tuchman did was he took up camp and he just waited it out. until the weather, got better in the spring and the summer. And he came up with a plan of how they were going to, proceed when the weather warmed up. So he recruited a young Inuit man to accompany him on the search. And when the summer melted away to ice and snow, they set off for the area where Joe and his son had their encounter. So, and as most things in Alaska, the trip was an effort. There's nothing easy about moving across backcountry, especially in 1890. Says, but their hard work paid off as they began to see signs of what they were looking for. And it wasn't long before they happened upon a cave with lots of mammoth bones spread around. On August 29th, they finally found what they were looking for. However, after talking with Joe about what him and his son encountered, Joe had explained that he thought the mammoth they shot was attracted to the smoke from his son's rifle. I don't know why they would think that. I mean, you wouldn't think it would be that much, especially if the thing is in a lake bathing and you're a distance away and you shoot at it. Was he going to come up and like, I want to smell that smoke coming out of your gun there. Mm-hmm. Hold on, I'll put my bath on hold so I can get a little sniff.
I mean, you're a wild animal out in the middle of nowhere, bathing in a lake, and you hear a loud noise and you smell something you never smelled before. It smells like chemicals. Yeah. You kind of get curious. I get curious. If I was camping and I heard a loud noise and smelled something I never smelled before, real strong.
But you think it would have the opposite effect if you see this smoke and you realize whatever came from that smoke just hit you and it hurt, but I don't know. There's such, if it was such a big creature, it might not even felt. I mean, it's like people talking about shooting Sasquatch and they just like look at him and turn around and walk off, You would expect something like that to explode on you and like, in this case, just like pummel you in the ground or something. But anyway, so Tuchman thought he would use that device that Joe had given him and try to set a trap for the mammoth. So his plan was to set up a big fire, and he would get it to draw the mammoth in. And when it arrived, they would ambush it. They were going to set up perches high in the trees and ambush the mammoth. So, anyways, the plan came together nicely when the mammoth got drawn in by the fire and began to stomp it out. That was another thing. Joe thought, that maybe these animals are used to seeing fires from, like, forest fires. And when that happens, they stamp it out. Try to stop it. I don't know. That's pretty smart, but...
It's
possible. You never know. And so that's what they did. They set up a big fire, and they waited for the mammoth to come in. They were up in these perches up in the trees. When the mammoth came in, they began shooting at it. They fired and fired and fired, and the animal didn't really affect it because it's huge. And they could see blood coming out of the animal. But it took a little bit, but after a little while, the animal finally stumbled and fell, and they had killed the mammoth, just as they had wanted to. Once again, I read through this whole story, and it turns out this whole story was fake also. So, anyway, so that was very disappointing. I spent a lot of time. I know you're wondering, why did you include that? Well, I did that because there have been there have been supposed woolly mammoth sightings over the past few hundred years. And I think, these guys exploiting that or, coming up with these, fictional stories there's probably some element of truth to some of it. And these guys just, ramped it up or, just added to it or made up their own stories. Just, I don't know. I don't know why anybody would do that, but they were entertaining stories. So, and there's been plenty of sightings, as I said, so there's some level of truth to that. Do you want to do one, buddy, or you want me to keep going with mine and to do yours?
You can do yours, and then I'll do mine.
Okay. The next one I'm going to talk about is let's see what this one is. The first one I want to talk about is not really. I guess this is not really a prehistoric animal, but it's an animal that supposedly is extinct, but is there's been a lot of stuff in the news recently about it, and that's the Tasmanian tiger, or the thylacine. So basically, the thylacine is or a Tasmanian tiger is, it's almost like a dog-like creature. You've probably seen pictures of them. They're kind of got a longer body, and then they've got the unique tiger striping down the back. Their face is kind of unique. Their mouth is really big. It goes back really far, so their mouth opens up really wide. It's a very unique animal. I don't think there's anything else that really compares to what it looks like. It does, in a lot of ways, resemble a tiger. Not just the striping, but kind of the back stance of the back of the body. But anyways, these were supposedly extinct. The last one supposedly died in the Hobart Zoo in Australia in 1936. And before that in mainland Australia had become extinct more than 2,000 years ago. But recently there have been many large dog-like animals that have been spotted that people are saying these aren't dingoes, they're not foxes, and this has been going on for decades. But the most recent accounts have come from the far north of Queensland in Australia, and they've spurred scientists to really look into this. Seen some videos. If you go out there and search, there's some videos, like home videos, where people have you don't see a good shark. It's like all videos, like the blob squatch videos. You see something, but these are a little more clear. You can see like the tail and the striping on the back. It's very unique. I mean, when it comes to the striping, you got just a couple things it could be. I mean, unless you just got a really crazy dog. I mean, I don't know. Maybe somebody spray painted their dog to look like a tiger, but it's either going to be a tiger or a Tasmanian tiger. In some of these videos I've seen. But so that's that I believe is a little more. There's a little more evidence towards this being a reality, that some of these are still existing. Mm-hmm. More so than some like the woolly mammoth stories. I studied both of these and read a bunch of stuff, and then found out they were both fake and made up.
It would be more believable that a Tasmanian tiger would be not actually extinct than a woolly mammoth, because the Tasmanian tigers, like you said, has only been extinct for
they were in zoos, and in 1936 they still had one confirmed in a zoo. So I mean, there's actual video of them. So that's true, and I totally agree with you there. I think that's highly likely, more so than some of these. But my next one is the Mapungari. I think they studied this on, I think they went on look for this on Destination Truth, where they went to the Amazon and looked for this. But basically, the Mapungari, there's been sightings in the Amazon for long time, and up to recent times, about tribesmen and stuff talking about running into this creature. Well, through some of these sightings and the way it's described, basically scientists believe that this is just the giant ground sloth, that it still exists and in the deep bowels of the jungle, and that they're not. They're calling it some creature, calling it the Mapungari, and it's like like almost like a cryptid creature, but in reality, it's probably just a leftover remnant. It's a giant ground sloth that still survives, and there's probably a breeding population, obviously, because there's still some around, but it's from what I read, it's a very terrifying creature when they read it, that it can be very territorial. runs people, villagers out of their area when they happen upon it, in the jungle. So you don't think about that when you think about a sloth. So, I mean, even though it's called a giant ground sloth, I guess it's not, the slow-moving...
Not all sloths were always,
Yeah.
Always just the three-toed sloth and some of the newer age sloths, but older ground sloths like, I think, the Megatherium family, the whole Therium family sloths came from the Therium family, but Megatherium was probably one of the biggest sloth ancestors to exist, which was basically, it's like an elephant and a giraffe if you were to like combine them with like the skin of an elephant, but like tall like a giraffe with a long neck with like the head of a horse. It was a crazy combination of animals, but they were loosely related to sloths and horses and elephants and a lot of different animals actually. But if they weren't all slow moving, just the smaller ones. There were a lot of bigger sloths that had big long claws, and a lot of them actually walked on their knuckles. They had their fists closed and walked on their knuckles, and their claws were so long they'd hang out because they couldn't close their fists, so they'd just walk like that, and they'd have their claws hanging out. And they didn't really fight too much, but if they needed to, they could. They used it for like deforestation, like getting leaves and stuff out of trees.
Well, it's kind of interesting because it says here that the sightings and stuff what people have claimed. They say it stands over 9 feet tall, it has nasty claws, backward-facing feet, and an extra mouth on its belly.
Could be a marsupial. Talking about
yeah, maybe
so. On its belly could be a pouch.
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I hear that.
That's crazy. I don't know. Our sloths aren't marsupials, are they?
I don't think so, no.
That's weird. Maybe that one. I don't know. And as a lot of cases with Sasquatch, Bigfoot sightings, it has a bad smell, which usually precedes actually seeing it or encountering it. It's definitely a carnivore, it says, and they've had a real bad problem with them taking cattle. But supposedly it's never, even though they've had some, people have run-ins with the Mapungari in the jungle that weren't very pleasant, but supposedly it's never assaulted a human. There's no documented cases of it. So anyways, that was my my other one. And I have more. What was my other one? Oh yeah, my last one here is going to be the pterosaurs or pterodactyls. These accounts come from livepterosaur.com. This one is from eastern Kansas. It's about 20 miles south of Kansas City, it says. She says, I just want to share my sighting of what appeared to be a freaking pterodactyl. It happened 2 years ago, but it was really bothered me since then. I had to share it with someone. It was just about after 8 a.m. on a weekend morning 2 years ago. It had a long head, huge leathery wings. I mean huge wings and a tail. Seemed to be grayish green, no feathers. And that doesn't have a date when that one happened. This one is Highway 84, Oregon, September 13th, 2016. So this was just not quite a year ago. I was driving in the early afternoon and saw a large bird flying across the freeway from the left. I yelled out to my husband that was the biggest bird I had ever seen. I said it must be a crane, but it looks like a pterodactyl. It was matte, dark gray, black with a crest on its head and a triangular shape on its tail. I believe it was at least 5 feet long. I began to look up black cranes on the internet. I did not see a single bird that looked like what I saw. I looked up pelicans, and they are in that area of Oregon. However, none of the pictures are anywhere close to what I saw. It was much bigger and darker, no feathers. I mean, right there, a big flag there. If they say there's no feathers, I mean, come on. What birds are there that don't have feathers?
Sounds more like a Dimetrodon to me. 5 feet long is not a. It's for 5 feet long it'd be a big bird, but if you're like really thinking about it, some of the birds back then had wingspans of like 20 feet long.
Oh yeah,
they were like massive. Like Quetzalcoatlus was the biggest non-feathered bird ever to fly, and I mean it was huge. Like that, and the biggest feathered bird was Argentavis, but the Quetzalcoatlus were as long as buses and had wingspans. I'm not,
are you making up these names?
I'm not sure of the exact wingspan feet, but they were massive. But it sounds more like a Dimetrodon rather than a Quetzalcoatlus or a Pteranodon, because Pteranodon and Quetzalcoatlus.
I believe you're making up these names. I don't believe these are real animals that you're speaking of here.
They were. They were the biggest danger for baby dinosaurs, actually, because Quetzalcoatlus didn't have any defenses. They didn't have any, they didn't have big claws or anything, so they'd go down and find dinosaur nests and eat hatchlings and then fly back up.
It's little chicken nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
Dino nuggets. You used to eat those when you were a little kid.
They still sell those at the Walmarts.
Probably.
Bethany, Oklahoma is the next one. It says, on 2 occasions I've seen a huge winged creature that had no feathers, gray leathery skin. It looked like the pictures I have seen of pterodactyls. I didn't know there was any pictures of pterodactyls. I'm pretty sure they were all drawings and whatnot. But about 1 year ago and then 2 weeks ago, my daughter was with me that just confused me. About 1 year ago and then 2 weeks ago, my daughter was with me that time. Both times driving down Route 66 between El Reno and Yukon. Both times were around 2 a.m. The first time I turned the corner on Route 66 off of Manning Drive, and it was right in front of my windshield of my truck and flew up with a big swoosh. Then the second time it was flying very low to the ground and disappeared into a wooded area off the road in the same area. Well, Route 66 has got its own little quirkiness there. It's probably going to be an episode sometime. Just stories about stuff that happens on Route 66. So that's interesting. My last one here is from 1968. This happened in Lansing, Illinois. I was 17 in 1968. It was late spring and I went outside my residence. I noticed there was little or no breeze and everything seemed still. As I started to my neighbor's house, I caught a glimpse of something in the eastern sky just behind me. I stopped, looked up, and there, just above the trees about 100 feet past, was this pterosaur. I couldn't believe it. It fanned its bat-like wings moderately as it went by, and I didn't know what to do. So I yelled as loud as I could at it. It turned its head and opened its mouth, and when I saw the rows of big teeth, I shuddered and wondered if I'd have to get under a car or something. It traveled straight west as I watched it disappear over the horizon. The thing was grayish blue and had a red knob on its head, with the rest of the head being a duller red. So those are a number. There's more sightings here, but let me read this last one. Pterodactyl sighting in the United States. I'm not a professor of paleontology. To be brief, I was a forensics videographer in 2003 when I began investigating these eyewitness accounts of prehistoric flying creatures or dragons. I recognized while viewing some amateur video footage the credibility of natives who were interviewed on a tropical island in the Southwest Pacific. And I think I've seen that video. That was one of the first ones I saw where they interviewed those people. But since then, I've seen some stuff about, the ones were up around Oregon and off, up, I think, Northern California. There's some sightings too, but very interesting. There's got to be something to it. There's also some pictures, historical pictures where they show like Civil War soldiers with holding up what looks to be a pterodactyl, a pterosaur, some kind of flying creature, featherless, hairless. So That's my spill, buddy, for my prehistoric sightings. You want to knock it out?
Yeah, go ahead and end it up with our last story. We've got quite a few reports, actually, about people finding titanoboas in the Amazon. And if titanoboas resurface in the Amazon and unextinct themselves, I guess I could say, then
I think you just made that word up.
if they reappear as a species and start to thrive, then the world's got a serious problem on its hands. Because titanoboa were the biggest snakes ever to live. They were up to 13 meters, 42 feet long, and their heads were 5 feet long themselves.
Jeez.
Yeah, and they were, there's been reports that people have seen 50 meters or 164 feet, which is, that's a little bit stretching it. 160 feet of snake.
For real. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but people are calling them mother of the water, or the Amazonians call it, not the Amazonians, but the people who live in the Amazon call it the Yaku Mama, which is mother of water. Black boa, Sucuri gigante, or Cobra grande has ranged from 50 meters to a more realistic 18 to 24 meters. There have been reports that anacondas have been approaching the bottom of the Yucamama sightings, but none have been confirmed by science. 2009, a man in Northern Ireland named Mark Warner and his son Greg traveled the region to try and capture evidence, assembling a team to carry out aerial surveys of selected locations. After 12 days in the jungle, hazardous weather conditions, hundreds of still photographs, and hours of video, the two men captured a photo of what they claimed to be a gigantic snake about 40 meters, which is 131 feet long, and almost 2 meters, 6 feet wide. But that photo...
That's insane.
That photo,
6 feet wide?
Yeah. The photo was kind of...
oh my gosh.
I mean... Yeah, let's see if I can pull it up.
I mean, you think about this. I've been in very, very, very close proximity of a 16-foot python.
Yeah.
And
You feel small.
Yeah, I mean, that's a massive snake. When you got something that's as big around as your thigh, that's a big snake. I can't imagine 130 feet
wide.
6 feet wide. Jeez.
Yeah, that's... But that's why I said, if we've got a titanoboa problem, then there's a huge problem. We definitely don't want them back. We're
Right.
Government's probably gonna.
Well, I mean, it's like every other creature that's prehistoric. Most of them are fairly large animals, and there was a reason that they were large at that time, and there was a purpose. There was plenty of vegetation. Everything was bigger back then.
Yeah.
And the stuff they fed on, what the other animals they ate or vegetation was bigger. So, yeah, it's a huge issue if something like that rears its head again.
And that's what always interests me. I always was like, big dinosaurs one's located. But I got older and started, studying it in my free time, and then I realized that, everything was big. The ferns, the insects, the early birds, even like the small predators were, some were as big as humans. And that's where it gets really interesting when you get into the domain of insects, Arthropleura, Pulmonoscorpius, those, Meganeura, those were some of the big, huge insects. Arthropleura was a centipede type millipede, more millipede, and it had its shell, like the arm on its back, was like a plate on one side, then it would go over, and then it was a plate on the other side.
Right.
And it was said to be, its armor was not to be tangled with. It was, it had very, very hard. It was a very hard vertebra. And Meganeura were dragonflies, huge dragonflies, 3 feet long. You think about a dragonfly today, you can hear them. They make that really distinct noise. Seeing a 3 foot long dragonfly, 2 feet wide, fluttering around, that would be crazy.
Right.
And
I just realized my charger. I gotta get my charger.
Okay.
Keep talking.
Everything is much much bigger. But all the greenhouse gases that were still in the atmosphere back then, the ozone hadn't decayed, letting out greenhouse gases, so more carbon monoxide and dioxide coming out of the earth, and just, everything was just so much bigger. The biggest creature, the biggest sauropod I know is the Argentinosaurus or the Titanosaurus. Some people call it both. It's either one because it was discovered in Argentina, which is why it's called the Argentinosaurus. And the biggest theropod, I want to say the biggest theropod's Gigantosaurus or Giganotosaurus. There's a big debate on the name, but Giga. It's just what I said, Giga. I believe that's the biggest theropod, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But that really has always interested me since about last year. I got into a game called Ark, and that really opened a bunch of doors in paleontology and really old things. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, you think about too. Just thinking, with the global warming, I wonder what the chances of if this process continues.
What's life going to be like in
Yeah.
300 years? What's animals going to be like, Not
Back in megafauna days, the environment was very humid, I guess it was greenhouse-like, very warm. I mean, we're looking at the environment changing, becoming warmer, but I guess, you don't have the ozone protection layer there, which is causing the Earth to get warmer. So I guess unless something changes with that, there's no, I'm thinking we go back to a megafauna type environment on the Earth, but I don't know.
I think it was a thicker ozone back then, because
yeah,
the thicker ozone kept all the carbon monoxide oozing out of the Earth.
Right.
I've watched many a documentary that talk about the many tar pits and the huge carbon monoxide and dioxide releases from the Earth back then, and the greenhouse gases, that being trapped inside the ozone and the sun heating it all up, and just,
Well, I guess, if you had that protective layer, somehow the ozone rebuilt, it could get back to that.
Yeah, as long, the ozone could, not, regenerate, but, it could get stronger again, but humans would have to
Stop what they're doing.
Limit the emissions, by a great amount. We would have to almost be back to primitive living, but I feel like that wouldn't be a terrible thing, to restart, kind of.
I mean, if you went back to, you quit using gas, combustion motors, you quit using plastic, you went back to using earthware, like they did back in the old days. You made pottery. Mm-hmm. Plastic, I mean, it's great. It's used in everything, but it's probably one of the worst inventions we've had, because it's not biodegradable. You got to recycle it, but most people don't recycle it. It's nothing. I mean, it's nothing real good about it other than convenience. And unfortunately, man is killing itself just because of convenience. Convenience of gas motors, combustion engines, what's killing the environment. The emissions from that. I mean, everything is all about convenience. You got nuclear fuel, creating energy is great, but it's a nuclear. You got nuclear waste you got to deal with. You got plastic waste you got to deal with. It's in the oceans, killing the environment. So I don't want to be tree hugger, beat stuff, but it's common sense stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be bad, to just kind of restart, not necessarily reinvent the wheel, but, just kind of have humans figure out what it would be like to have less emissions. We could still have the convenience. We would just have to figure out how to do it without, killing the environment and the ozone.
Right. There's technology. I mean, there's plenty of technology out there.
Yeah.
Hey, what would it hurt to go back to riding bicycles a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
Or, something like that. I mean, I don't know. I've always been fascinated with, Europe, you can pretty much get around anywhere over there
With
by a train or walking or bicycle.
Yeah.
So it'd be a little harder, in the U.S. because there's so much land. But if you use,
Europe's more
mass transportation,
has more civilization. They've got cities much more frequently than
it's a smaller land space. So, I mean,
that too.
But still, connecting those cities, you have, there's plenty of public transportation. I think that's what we're missing here. They have it in the cities, but in between the cities, it's very expensive. Whereas over there, you have, for a couple dollars, you can go from city to city on a train and stuff. But anyway, it's kind of got off on the tangent there. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. We killed our environment. We killed our Earth. We're killing the Earth. A step back wouldn't be bad at all. I mean, but we'd have to lose some conveniences and deal with it. But anyways, I think we've talked it out tonight about our. I don't know what our next episode is going to be, but we usually don't let anybody know beforehand anyway. So you'll just have to wait and see what we come up with.
That's our secret. We never know what we're going to talk about.
Because we don't know either until like 2 hours before.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
We know a couple days before, but we have to stew on it for a few days before we come up with something. So you just have to wait. Anything going on that we need to... Let's just do our normal spiel here. Yep. Just want to tell everybody we can't reiterate this enough that we need feedback.
Yeah.
Any feedback would be nice.
Yeah, and we've been we hit 300 downloads.
Yeah, we're like 350 or 60 downloads, which I mean doesn't sound like a lot, but it is for us because that means 360 or plus people have taken the time to download this. Whether they listen to it all the way through, I don't know, but hopefully you did, and hopefully you'll continue to stay with us. We do have some plans for some upcoming shows. We have some trips we want to take and maybe record remote. Just got to figure out the logistics of that. If nothing else, we'll go remote and then we'll bring back the information and record an episode here. So we want to make this grow and do some new cool stuff. And like I said, eventually we're going to get working on a website. If I can get my bill-paying job to slow down long enough to let me do something cool and fun, then that would be great. So we'll get there. We got summer coming up, so hopefully that'll bring us slow down. I know it will for Harrison. So
I intend to be very slow this summer.
Yeah, he's gonna be ground sloth slow. And so, anyways, please send us some feedback. Our email address is unexplained.reality@yahoo.com. You can look us up on Facebook. Just look for Unexplained Reality. We have a page there. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. Come follow us, like us, don't like us, whatever. Send us something. Shoot us an email. And probably the best thing you can do for us is on your podcatcher, whatever you prefer to use, to like our show and subscribe to us and leave us a comment. All that helps, because then other people see it and they see your comments, see your likes, and then they come check it out, and then we can grow this thing, and it gives us more opportunities here. So I guess if you don't have anything else, buddy, we'll close this out. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, as usual, we want to thank Ricky Young Music, which is rickyyoung.com. He allows us to use all his music for our shows here, for the intros and outros, and even the background. So we thank him. He's a local guy, and does some good stuff. rickyyoung.com. And as usual, we want to thank the podcasts that we listen to. Sasquatch Chronicles, Into the Fray Radio, Saswhat, OK Talk, Mysterious Universe, The Gralien Report, Expanded Perspectives, Monsters Among Us, The Confessionals, and Somewhere in the Skies. So that's what we got for now. And I guess we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.
These empty walls where the pictures used to be, you and me. Instead of this whiskey bin, light and green, how you been? I'm okay. Instead of digging through this old pile of lessons learned, I aim to burn. Instead of this always gonna be lonely, feeling I can't seem to shake. It'd be you flying down the highway, me saying everything I didn't say. It'd be you coming back to me. It'd be you and a bottle and a sad song. Not all the things I did wrong. It'd be you coming back to me instead of just a memory. Only by this time of night we'd be all cuddled up in love. I still wouldn't get much sleep, but it'd be as sweet as that morning sun. Instead of me and my pride, it'd be you by my side. Take back every tear you cried, every time I lied.